This is the Pilot Point Bearcat Pregame Show, brought to you by Homeland Roofing on PilotPointBearcats.com. And now, here's your host, Ryne Menard, with John Little and Chris Nortman.
This is the Pilot Point Bearcat Pregame Show, brought to you by Homeland Roofing. It's the full crew with me tonight, with John and Chris here. Going back to last Friday night, homecoming, what an up-and-down performance last Friday night for the Bearcats against Boyd. It hurt to let that one get away, didn't it?
Man, it sure did, Ryan. Losing a key district game like that at home, during homecoming no less, it's a really tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, we got off to a slow start, made that comeback, and that just hurts when you have a chance late in the game and we blew it. And that sucks to lose those.
Yeah, I think the Bearcats expelled all their energy just crawling back into the game. I think that's kind of been a theme of what we've seen a lot this year is the Bearcats have gotten down 10 or 14 in a couple of these games and claw their way back. The Paradise game comes to mind, the Boyd game, the Ponder game, and in a couple of those games against the better teams like Boyd and Paradise, they just emptied the gas tank just to get back in the game in the fourth quarter, and after that, had nothing left to give, and that's tough on them, but that just seems to be how football is when you only have 19 guys wearing helmets on the sideline on a Friday night. So lack of depth has gotten us a handful of times. But, with us on the outside of the playoff picture looking in, we have a couple games left to play. So we've been talking about it on this show the last couple of weeks about how the playoffs started when the Bearcats went on the road to face Ponder. And they got the win there, but they couldn't bring home the win against Boyd. So we're definitely on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. As a coaching staff and as the players, how do you think they're going to approach these final weeks of practice and now the final couple of games, especially the last home game for these seniors in a couple Friday nights?
Yeah, for me, Ryan, I think we're not completely mathematically out of the playoff picture, so the coaches have to do a great job this week of just pumping the boys back up after that loss and consistently reminding them that they still have something to play for in the season. So it's still one game at a time, and to take it further, it's they got to get them focused down to winning just one play at a time. Because I'll repeat myself again, and already touched on it. The benefits of us getting an early lead and not playing from behind the scoreboard is just paramount with our limited roster numbers. And as you guys have seen, we expended way too much energy doing that. So if we can just get the coaching staff to pump the boys back up and make sure they know that there's still something to play for in this season. They can still make the playoffs.
Yeah, Norty, what are your thoughts?
So I have kind of the same thoughts as John has. If you play Friday, kickoffs at 7:30, let's get out fast, let's get going, let's put some points up. That's all you can focus on. We're still mathematically in it. I think we got to win the next two and have Boyd lose or something like that to be able to make the playoffs, but that's not your worry right now. You got to win Friday. That's the main focus, is put a bunch of points up on the board and come up Friday with the win, and then you can maybe start looking at what comes after that. But Friday's a big game. It's another chance to get in the playoffs, so hopefully we can get out fast and get going.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it's a little bit of pride that comes in here. Just these last two games, even if you are mathematically eliminated, you're going to be putting on the Pilot Point jersey 2 more times at least. You're going to go out there and represent the town playing football. You have to give it all you've got. You have to go out there and leave it all on the field. And also with the limited roster numbers, you really don't have a choice, right? So if you don't go out there and leave it all on the field and you don't give it your all, you could really get humiliated. And that's, hopefully it's not what the program's about. That's not what I don't think Kyle or Keith are about. And I just think they need to go out and whether the playoffs on the line or not, go out there with some heart and pride and put it all on the line and try to bring home a win. And that should be the goal just every night when they take the field. So we're going to get into the district results from last week and some of the district standings. So Boyd obviously beat Pilot Point at Pilot Point 35-28. Brock in another close fought last-minute win for Brock. Brock on the road in Paradise pulls out an 18-13 win with a late fourth quarter touchdown to get that win. And then Peaster got their first district win of the year, only their second win all year, with a 55-35 road win at Ponder, which sets up this week's Pilot Point. Will be on the road for Peaster. Brock will be at home versus Ponder, and Whitesboro will be at home versus Paradise. That leads us into the next segment we got here. What do you know about Peaster? Peaster's 2-6 on the season, 1-3 in district play. Peaster is one of the mysteries of the district. This was supposed to be a big season for them. They made the playoffs last year, and they were picked by Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine to finish third in the district this year. We saw it, made a lot of sense when the magazine first came out. John and I were both thinking, yeah, that makes sense. They made the playoffs last year. They're returning most all of their starters this year, and most all of them are 3-year starters. Quarterback Gunnar McElroy, who can sling it. Big, physical, talented running back Tramar Gilbert. Wide receiver Rhett Steen. We've seen these guys play over the last couple seasons, and they were all back. And just looking at the stats, they seem to be underperforming. Peaster runs a spread offense, and they like to pass, but they only average 24.25 points a game, and they're pretty lacking on the defensive side, letting up 37 points per game against. Now, if anyone from Peaster listens to this, I may be about to start some controversy, but so what? It's late in the year, who cares? My impression of the Peaster team last year was they were much more talented in the way they played, and they almost seemed to refuse to use Tramar Gilbert in big situations. Tramar Gilbert is Peaster's most versatile, explosive athlete. He's big, he's fast, he's hard to tackle. Yet time after time, they refused to turn to him when they needed the yards in favor of the pass attack. The Peaster O-line is the biggest weakness on the team. They had an impossible time trying to protect Gunnar McElroy back there. He's a good athlete and can sling it, but they couldn't keep him upright. They struggled in the passing game some. And then you look and you see that the Peaster head coach is Gunnar's dad, Gary McElroy. And I can't help but think that might have something to do with the play calling. John, you want to go first on what you think about that? What you think about Peaster?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Ron. And I'll get into Tramar Gilbert in my keys to the game because I agree with you. He's a beast. But I've coached my son Jake all the way through from soccer, baseball, basketball, football. He retired himself after the 8th grade football season. But I think, I was the head coach in most of those teams. And I think what the parents really appreciated about my style, and I'm sure you'll see this with Red as well when he's growing up, Ryan, is that, for me, of course, I wanted to develop all the kids, and I didn't really care if Jake played quarterback or left tackle. And speaking of which, his 5th and 6th grade year, he did play left tackle for me. And if you see Jake now, he's definitely not a left tackle. He's got about 5% body fat. He's lean, quick, but back then he hadn't hit puberty just like the rest of them, and we didn't have anybody over the ball carrying weight. So I needed guys that could block, and he was one of our best blockers. So I put him at left tackle, and I didn't get any complaints from the parents because I wasn't throwing him in there at quarterback, and we weren't losing games because of Jake Tyson Little, that's for sure. It can be a difficult spot as a coach to have a son on the team, but you got to do the right things for the team to win. And like I said, I'll get into it with my keys, but I think Tramar Gilbert is Peaster's key to victory. But we'll see what they come up with their game plan on Friday night. How about you, Nordy?
So I'm going to kind of do something like we did last week where me and you were on the same page last week, John, about having a bye week coming off a big game, and Ryan was completely opposite. I'm going to go with I'd watch out for Peaster here. I was looking up some of their stats, and they've played 5 ranked teams on the year. One of them was a 2A ranked team in Toller, but Toller's still a pretty good team. Their 2 wins, there was Castleberry and Ponder. Castleberry's, they beat them 44-0. Castleberry's only win, I believe, is against a team that hasn't scored all year. So that was kind of Castleberry's not a good team. Ponder, we thought they were pretty decent. They gave us a good run for our money, and they handled them pretty well. So I'm kind of they're not a slack team. We got to watch out for them. And I believe there's some rain in the radar, and they're in a grass field, so it could be a little mud ball for us. I'm going to be nervous about this running back that's just a monster to stop. It could be a pretty tough game. I don't want to necessarily call it a trap game, but we really got to come in there and be focused on this team because they could they can put it to us. And this is the second week in a row we're playing a team that's coming off their best week. So Boyd had a pretty good game the week before, and Peaster just put up 55 against Ponder last week. So this team's not a slack. I'll be interested to see what happens.
I'm always just so baffled every week when I see Ponder just gets beat every week, and seeing him play. And I kind of expected Ponder to handle Peaster from everything we've been seeing. But yeah, sometimes the record doesn't tell the full story, Nordy. Sometimes they are playing a bunch of good teams, and when they get an opportunity to play a team not as good as the rest, they show out. And that was what Peaster did last week with a 20-point win over Ponder. So what they showed us is if we don't bring it Friday night, we don't come ready to play. They're just as capable of getting us as Boyd was, and really in any team that Poplar plays. This team just isn't explosive enough to separate themselves from anybody. So they're going to have to go out there and put together 4 good quarters of football. And speaking of that, need 4 good quarters of football this week. Nordy, who is your guy to kind of drive the bus there and get us 4 good quarters of football?
So I'm going to go back to a guy I picked my first week in the big month. I think I used monstrosity of a man in Ryne Menard this week. I think it's going to be a tough game in the trenches, be a little mud bowl, be a little sloppy, and I'm hoping this hog is wallering around in the mud out there and having a ball, because we're going to need him to be disruptive on the D-line, and the running back they got's a pretty big dude, so we're going to need him to put up a fight there, and then I'm hoping he can pave the way for Gage Friday, because we're going to need to run the ball quite a bit. So I'm going with Ryne Menard again this week. Last time I picked him, we come out with a victory, so hopefully that works again.
John, let's go ahead and go to you.
Yeah, I think the player to watch, obviously every week, it seems like it's Wyatt Smith to Aston Kirby. That connection is something to watch. But I'm going against the grain again this week, and I'm going to go with senior linebacker number 24, Kel Martin, a.k.a. the Kel Crunch. So I'm going to mix in the salad. And he's second on the team in tackles with 67 tackles behind Colin Lynch, who has 98. But I'll be watching Kel this week, mainly because it's paramount that we stop that big running back, number 11, Tremar Gilbert. So I'll be watching Kel to carry the brunt of that responsibility. Kel's a strong, athletic kid, but Gilbert is next level. He's got offers from Abilene Christian, Sam Houston, and even drawing some interest from the likes of Texas Tech.
Yeah, that information right there lends you to believe even more that they're just not using them correctly down there in Peaster. And for me, it's a pretty clear line on maybe why that is. But I don't like making the generic pick generally. But ultimately, at this point, over 600 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns over the last 3 games. If I told you 600 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns for a season, I could get you to believe that was probably a pretty good season. Coming into this season, matter of fact, no surprise Aston Kirby was going to lead the pack in receiving for the Bearcats. But if you had to tell me, hey, put a number on what you think he's going to get this year, it probably would have been a little north of 600 yards, maybe not a whole lot more, but a little bit more. I don't know if I would have guessed 10 touchdowns all season. And that's what he's done in the last 3 weeks. He's really showing out, trying to put this Bearcat team on his back. He's made great plays on defense too. But this Friday night, real winnable game on the road, in the rain. We need somebody who put us on their back and carry us across. And who better than a guy with the Mississippi mud flap to carry us through a mud bowl and into the win column. So I'm going to go that route. I'm going to go, with the man who's really dragging us along so far as my player to watch. So now that we've gotten through players to watch, let's get over to John for his 3 keys to the game.
Yes, sir, Ryne Menard. So key number 3. To me, key number 3 is battle of the quarterbacks. So again, we have really 2 really good quarterbacks going into it Friday night with our Wyatt Smith versus Peaster's Gunnar McElroy. Both are seniors. Both are seasoned veteran play callers, been at the helm for quite a while now. Wyatt has 1,639 passing yards with 17 touchdowns on only 2 interceptions this season for 107 quarterback rating, improved from 103 last year, and he had 21 touchdowns and 6 interceptions last year. So Wyatt's killing it again. Meanwhile, Gunner has 1,541 passing yards with 14 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. His quarterback rating is 88 this season. And that's actually down. Last season, he had a heck of a year. He was at 109 quarterback rating last season. So look for whichever quarterback has the better evening to come out on top in this game. That's key number 3. And key number 2. So key number 2 to me, you guys touched on it, it could be a muddy track. So I'm looking at the turnover battle. I think a key fumble or two could be the difference in this one. We got a key fumble from those guys last year. Maybe even some interceptions. They like to sling it no matter if it's going to be slinging mud or not. So we'll look for that muddy track to be a factor. That's key number 2. And key number 1. Key number 1, it's a 1990 classic. Let me get it going here.
Can't touch this.
Put your dance pants on there, Norty. You can't touch this.
Can't touch this. Can't touch this.
Yeah, so to me, the key to this game is the guy that you touched on, Rynes. It's the big physical running back, Tremar Gilbert. He's 6'3", 200 pounds, and if he gets over 15 touches in this game, I think the Bearcats are going to be in trouble. He had 16 carries for 214 yards on the ground and 3 total touchdowns in their win last week against Ponder. And so we'll have to cover Tremar in the passing game as well and try to limit his touches there too, because he can be explosive as a pass receiver as well. I saw he caught a key wheel route, one-handed no less, against Paradise and took it 75 yards down the sideline to the house, and one of the more impressive plays that you'll see in high school football this year, a couple weeks ago. He had 21 total touchdowns last year with 15 of them on the ground, and he has 14 total touchdowns this season with 6 of them have been on through the air. And he also averages 129 all-purpose yards per game. And so I'm imploring our Bearcats not to kick number 11 the ball. Don't let him touch it. Hopefully he can't touch it. And oh, by the way, he also leads the team with 2 interceptions as well. He was all-district offensive running back and also as a linebacker last year. And so I went back to the stats last year in our 31-13 win over Peaster, and they had 29 carries total for 92 yards. That included the quarterback as well, but it's only a 3.2 yard per carry average. So I'm going to predict if we can hold Peaster under 100 yards rushing, that we win this ball game. It might be a tough task, but we'll see. If they're over 100 and Tremar has 3 touchdowns, that means he's doing the hammer dance, and he's got the hammer dance pants on, and probably he'll end up being the hammer, acting as MC Hammer, and the Bearcats will be the nail. If Tremar gets over 15, 20 carries, we could be in trouble. That's key number 1.
Yeah, so just some of the stats you threw out about almost half of his touchdowns through the air is on the ground leads me to believe that they're just not using them the same way I would use them. And, I mean, that's really a break for all the teams that have to face Peaster, is not to let him get 20, 25 carries a game. So, but that's what we have to look forward to Friday night. Pilot Point on the road at Peaster. Peaster, the last time we were there was just last year, man, they had an excellent atmosphere for a football game Friday night. We asked a few times if it was homecoming, just because how many people were there and the energy level, and it wasn't. It was just a random game. So I believe it'll probably be senior night for the Greyhounds Friday night. A lot of these players that kind of started the program. This is only, I think, the 3rd year of the program. So a lot of these first-generation Greyhound football players will be having their senior night. So they're going to be bringing it. It's going to take the Pilot Point Bearcats bringing a great effort to get a win Friday night.
Yes, sir.
So that's all we have for you on the pregame show. We'll see y'all Friday night at Peaster for those that are there. For those that aren't, make sure pilotpointbearcats.com, click and subscribe to the YouTube page. Get active in the Sunset Pool subscriber chat, and we'll be there bringing you Bearcat football. That's all we have for the show. Thank y'all. Go Bearcats.
Go Bearcats.
Go Bearcats.
Homeland Roofing LLC has been serving the DFW area since 2014 and is a proud sponsor of Bearcats football. Homeland Roofing is a full-service contractor who specializes in storm restoration and provides end-to-end service for all insurance claims. If you've had storm damage, you've filed a claim but have questions about that next step, or you'd like a complimentary inspection, call Homeland Roofing at 469-343-3536, 469-343-3536, or find us on Facebook, Homeland Roofing, Texas.